Hi, this is a tutorial to show you how you can use the green screen to put an artificial background behind a subject. We've taken a good picture with consistent green around the outside, and now it's time to do the Photoshop work. First step we're going to do is get the subject into the background that we've chosen. And to get him there, first we're going to use the magic wand tool. I've set a tolerance of 60. That's very generous, so it's going to take anything that I click on. I'm going to use anti-alias, and I'm going to keep contiguous on. And I don't need to worry about sample all layers. But clicking on the green background selects anything that is the same color all the way around. Holding down Shift will get it just a little bit closer to his hairline. Make sure that it doesn't eat into your subject. If so, back off the tolerance and try again. Undo is your best friend. Next, to get his image, I've selected the background, but I want to select the subject instead. So I've got to invert the selection. Select, Inverse, or Shift Control I. Now I've selected his pixels, and with the Move tool, I can drag him down to our background. In the background, if I double click it and open it, you can see that he's way too big for this background, so I've got to resize him. To get a better view of it, I'm going to shrink the view with the magnifying glass, so I'm pretty confident I can see all of him. Use the Move tool again and make sure I've got him on his layer selected. And now I can shrink this and move it and get it sized. Be careful not to squish or squash or stretch your subject. They should stay in the same aspect ratio, the same proportions. So if I'm pretty happy with that, I'll select it, double click the hand tool, and now I've got my image. Now it looks pretty good, but we're going to make it better in two different ways. We're going to blend the pixels around the outside edge so it looks like he's really part of this picture, and then we're going to get rid of this green tint, and we can do that pretty quickly. First off, to get rid of the fringe and to blend it in a bit more, I'm going to select him using his icon over here and holding down the Control key and clicking on it. I've selected the opaque pixels, so once again, he's selected. But what I'm going to do is use that inverse again, select, and inverse. And that selects the area around him instead of him directly. Now I'm going to zoom in and get a close look at what's happening here. Whoops. So you can actually see the effect. And you can see the flaw too that we're going to correct. You get close enough to this and you can see that there's a little bit of green tinge around the outside and some jaggies and stuff we're going to get rid of. So here's how we get rid of it. We've selected these pixels, which are empty, on this layer. We are going to expand the selection slightly by using Select and Feather. I'm going to feather this by 2 pixels because I have a fairly high resolution picture. And what it will do is blur this line by 2 pixels, 1, 2, and it'll start to take a little bit of him away, but more likely it's going to make things look like they blend. So with the outside selected and feathering the selection, now if I hit the delete key, it's not just going to delete the empty pixels, it'll start to get into the pixels there. Watch, and here it goes. It's very subtle, but now when we back off to 100% and get rid of the selection, you can see that things blend in just a little bit finer. Now the last stage, we want to get rid of the green tinge in his hair. We're going to need another layer for this. And what we're going to do is use the clone stamp tool to steal pixels from a good area of color and paint them over top a bad area. If I do it right now, holding the Alt key, I can steal pixels from here. And by the way, I've turned off aligned. It works a little bit easier if I can keep stealing the pixels from the same color. I can paint the pixels back using the clone stamp tool. Oh, but here's the first problem. We're painting outside the line, so I'll undo that. Before I start painting, I'm going to Control click on his layer again, and this gives me lines. It's like painting within the lines, but the lines won't let you go outside. So if I use clone stamp now, I can't go outside that border. And with aligned off, I can keep painting it. Now this looks very artificial, starting to look a little bit too spiky. So here's the next little trick. I don't want to actually literally put the pixels there, I just want their color. So I'm going to change the mode of that color layer to color. And you'll notice what happens. Instead of painting pixels, it just paints color. And if I paint on the other side, I can kind of get the same effect there. If you find that it's a little too extreme, we're taking a really red color here and painting it over very, very saturated pixels. I'm going to undo that a couple of times. I can change the opacity of what I'm painting so it has a more subtle effect and tints it just a little bit to try to compensate for that green. And if you need to make a smaller brush, you can absolutely do that too, so that you can get into the finer points here. Okay, and in this way, you can correct a lot of the flaws that you might have with a picture to try to sell the illusion Get rid of some of the green tints that are around. And if something looks like it's a little bit too burned or too saturated once you've changed the color, you can always go back to some of these tools that will let you change how saturated colors are. For instance, the sponge tool will allow you to back off the color a little bit. And if you had to, you could do the same thing with the original color underneath. So there's your tutorial. By the time you're done, you should have a very, very convincing illusion. Thanks for watching.